Now, my choice feels controversial because it's not a game I don't necessarily not like. I think it's a great game. I enjoy playing it, and I still recommend it to people and say, "Oh, it's a wonderful game." Now, but a game that has not aged well, especially comparative to its series, and was notable even not that long after its release, was Mass Effect 1.
What?
I know! It's still a great game with a great story and has lots of great elements to it, but comparatively, if you go and play Mass Effect 2 and 3 and go back, the combat is clunky, the elevators are so freaking long and full of nonsense that just doesn't need to be in an elevator, the loading screens take ages, the inventory's a mess, it just is not the refined experience that it grew to be. Now, loads of people will slam on the Mako, the little truck that you drive around in on planets. That was a great part of that game. Don't slam on that, because that is good. But everything else is just not as refined an experience as 2 and 3 have become. And I played Mass Effect 2 first, and then played 3, and then went back to 1 to do the whole game trilogy again. So when I first played Mass Effect 2, I tried to go back to 1. I played the first opening bit. I was like, I'll play 1 first and then carry on with this afterwards so I can actually do it in order. And I just couldn't do it. That was really early on after Mass Effect 2 was released as well. I was like, I can't do this. This is a mess. I don't like it. Mass Effect 2 is great. I'm just going to play this one and forget about that one and do 2 and 3. And then did those. Was like, right, it is time. It is time to return. Had to give myself years in between going back to 1 because it was such a clunky mess that if I had the memory of 2 and 3 fresh in my palate and hands, then I wouldn't have been able to go back to it. But yeah, Mass Effect 1, wonderful game, wonderful story, the foundations for an excellent series that has lasted the ages, but has not aged well.
Going back to nostalgia is a terrible thing, and one of the games I played a lot growing up with my best mate, the man I beat Streets of Rage with many years ago, Chatty episode 3, maybe? Anyway, we used to play Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on the GameCube, mainly because the battle mode was a lot of fun, but also because the opening level of that was City Escape, which of course I don't need to, the song is already in all of your heads. You're all welcome. But going back to that, be it on the GameCube, be it on the port they did to Xbox 360, be it on the port they did to Steam, controls-wise, that game is an absolute mess. And it's the same with Sonic Adventure 1 as well. It's like they needed to try and find a balance between magnetizing Sonic to the actual route he's on, but also not making it so it's on rails and you could basically just hold forward and that was it. It was an absolute mess. Even City Escape, as fun as it is, the absolute bop of a soundtrack it is a slog to get through, and that's probably the thereabouts the cleanest level in the game. Things after that just kind of get messy. Sorry? Sonic the Hedgehog, exactly. And it's a shame because I have so much love for that game. But trying to go back to it, you get that moment when he's breaking out the helicopter and you're like, yeah, I'm ready for this! And then you try and turn one corner and he just slams into the wall and stops dead and you go, okay, I'm done.
So anyone who's been watching Chatty Faces the last few episodes, and obviously you have been, will know that at one point in the early 2000s I had a bit of a World of Warcraft problem. Not quite an addiction, just a problem. As you can probably tell by my post-MMO pallor that I have today. But one of the games that helped wean me off that and realise there's a whole world of much, much better things I could be playing out there was Okami, which was the best Legend of Zelda game released since Ocarina of Time. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but that is the truth. And absolutely magnificent, picture perfect, Sumie style, gorgeous stuff, so many puzzles and areas to explore, so many secrets. Just a rollicking time about a wolf, or a god who thinks he's a wolf, and a little painted fella. So I recently revisited this in the HD version on the PS4, and I was expecting to have the same feelings, obviously with the heightened bonus of nostalgia, like drive me forward. And I was left feeling a little bit, it's heartbreaking to say, but a bit disappointed, because although it looks absolutely beautiful, the game has not necessarily aged brilliantly. Let's say the industry has moved on quite a bit from people talking endlessly. The biggest problem is that you have a little celestial envoy called Isun, and theoretically he's a painter who's chronicling your journey with his beautiful pens. So if they say a picture paints 1,000 words, but it hardly seems necessary, because he's got about 10 billion words for any given situation, and he never, ever, 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 ever shuts up. And not only does he never shut up, but one of the things he most likes to talk about is every lady in the game. He likes to talk about the Bristol cities at length. Like, he completely focuses on it, and all the female characters indulging by wobbling the giblets around into his face, and it's just, I sort of feel like, didn't I have a problem with this when I was 21? Why? How is this acceptable? It's just base misogyny, it's sexism. It doesn't sit right with me, and I sort of feel it ruins what's otherwise an outstanding work of art. It's still a good game. It feels a bit passé, and it feels a little bit pervy. Yeah, but other than that, it's fine.
Well, just to keep you on your toes, Rich, I've actually swapped it last minute, so who knows what I'm going to even say in this entry, but now I've decided it's Grand Theft Auto 3. Purely because, right, I know it's a landmark title. It ushered in the idea of a sandbox game, a 3D sandbox game in general. It was a great proof of concept. It had some great characters. Exploring that world provided me with just endless joy when I was a kid, but I don't think it holds up well now. It deserves its spot in history, but going back to it, I actually can't play the game without the cheats on, and I think that's sort of indicative of the fun I had as a kid. It's not just because I remember it that way, but I feel like the way it controls in the missions themselves are very, very dated by today's standards, and it doesn't have the overall sort of holistic, coming together of gameplay and story and characters that Vice City does, for instance. I went back to that, and although some of the same problems are in that game, it comes together more as a sort of confident whole product in a way that GTA 3 just sort of doesn't. It's a lot of great disparate elements that, sadly for me, don't hold up well. Sure, it's great to import, illegal vehicles by using the cheats. If you've got all of those with you, you can have a rollicking good time, but without those, for me, there isn't enough there that would come with later GTA games. I don't know specifically what it is. I don't know whether this is just shared by me. I know I was talking to Ozley before I did this, who said he still enjoyed it, but it's always been a sticking point. It's always felt like a proof of concept in the same way that the first GTA game does. I don't think that holds up well either, the top-down sort of 2D game. I've tried to get into that one as well so many times. I had it on the PlayStation 1. I tried again a few years later. I even got the PlayStation Classic, so I could finally give it another go, and it just stinks. It just doesn't work. I don't know what the fun is. I don't like it. In GTA 3 isn't as bad as that, but it's very similar in the same way where I can look at it from outside and think, I understand how you've got from that to GTA 5, and I appreciate the journey, but I don't necessarily appreciate the game playing it now.
I had a thought about this, and it's got to be Skyrim. Now, I bloody love Skyrim so much. I love the gameplay. I can see you bloody wincing at that. And the gameplay is great, the story is great, everything about it is pretty good. It's standard Bethesda stuff where you've got all the bugs and glitches that comes with the Bethesda game.
But
and you can...
Back when it was cute.
Yeah, back when it was cute. And you can kind of like look past it and go, haha, how funny is that? A giant like slamming me into the ground and I go launching up into space. That's really funny. But if you go and play it now, like about 8 years later, because it came out in 2011, chances are you'll be playing on PC, and chances are you have a good, decent graphics card or, like components and stuff. If you play it in more than 60 frames per second and your VSync is turned off, which I always do to turn off input lag, then you'll get loads and loads and loads of issues, mainly the water, but also mainly the very start. So you're inside a cart and then it will suddenly like flip over and just go all buggy and stuff like that. That's because it's not it's not stuck to 60 frames per second. And I've got a 144 Hertz monitor, and that really royally messes up. And I was loading up one day and just started it, and I knew that was going to take a while, like a good 5 minutes to get through the first cutscene. So I went away and did some stuff. And I got back and I was still upside down inside the ground, like trying to just go through it. And the horses go like panting and just moaning and groaning and stuff like that. It's pretty funny, but honestly, like it's just aged so bad with the performance. And that issue is still in that engine today with Fallout 76. Like you can't play it more than 60 frames per second because the physics is locked to the frame rate essentially. And it's bad. You just need to fix it, Bethesda.
For me, it's hands down Goldeneye. Goldeneye is a great game wrapped in bad controls. Like, if you take all of the features of that game, a very immersive single-player experience, a brilliant multiplayer suite, all of the fun cheat modes that were added in, like, that was a perfect example, but the way that game played is
only suiting to the bizarre N64 controller. You needed to have mammoth octopus hands to get the most out of it. And it doesn't translate well to today's FPS shooters. With all of the dual twin sticks and all of the shoulder buttons and all of the rapid response clicky doodad, I don't even know. Like, it's moved on a lot. So when you try and play it, it just doesn't feel right. I don't know, it's like move, but I'm looking at the floor. Whoa, better go up here, brother. Whoa, like that. It's like 007 has had 007 shots before he started going on his rampage. He's just like, right, you just stay still, mate. I'll get you in a minute. There we go. Oh, Natalia's dead. Brilliant, fantastic. Yeah, a great game, just bad controls, and unfortunately, I feel like it has soured my experience going back to it. I'd rather leave it in the nostalgia-filled past than bring it dragging and screaming into the future. And I'm sure it gets a lot of hate. People say that it's amazing. Go back and play it right now. Prove me wrong. Oh, you're not enjoying it, are you? Funny that.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. Now, if you want more chatty faces, why not watch through the rest of our playlist? But I just want to say a big thank you to the brilliant channel sponsors for voting on this week's chatty question. And if you want to join the vote, then why not consider hitting the join button and becoming a sponsor today? And we will see you next week. Bye!